Alright, by now I trust you understand how these ranking videos work. So, Justice League sucks balls. Both cuts. Like, obviously it's not just a Batman movie, but Batman is clearly the main character trying to form the team together, so it is sort of his movie. And I just never liked Ben Affleck's rendition, especially in this one. And yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody agrees it's just a dirty diaper of a movie. So at best I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Next is Bvs Batman vs Superman. Basically just as bad, but I would say the story of it is slightly better, of Batman being afraid of Superman, so he feels like he needs to defeat him, basically. And then the actual Batman vs Superman fight that lasts all of 10 minutes. Don't ever want to watch it again. Like to prefer that Ben Affleck's rendition just never happened, and move on. So it will also be getting a 6 out of 10. It's interesting. For whatever reason, I kind of held off watching Batman Forever for basically my whole life. I know I probably saw it when I was like 6, but finally like a week ago I brought myself to watch it, and it honestly wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be. The villains were trash, but Val Kilmer was cool, and I thought the subplot of Nicole Kidman wanting to fuck Batman was pretty hilarious. If the entire movie revolved more around that, I would have enjoyed it, but all the other shit going around kind of bored me, so I fast forward through like at least 10-20 minutes of this movie. But it's very colorful, and overall I'd say it's pretty watchable, so I'd give it a 6.5. This is the first of 2 animated Batman movies on this list. Batman vs. the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a crossover I never thought I'd see. I'm surprised that it kind of worked, at least for half of the fucking movie, because the second half of the movie just kind of lost me. It started to drag. There's a point where they do a mission and you think the movie's over, but nope, there's still another mission after that. So I kind of just fast forward towards the end. So the ending is definitely the worst part of it, but overall I would recommend it to people that like either franchise, and the actual bat suit in that movie is pretty tight. I kind of like the blue and black a little more than the all black Batman, and I'll give it a 6.5. Now this seems to be the most despised Batman movie, which I think is reasonable, but at the same time, I do not hate this movie the way other people do. I love how campy and goofy this fucking movie is. You got peak schlock coming from Arnold. To be fair, you kind of get campy schlock from literally everybody in this movie. Probably the only bad part of this movie is the casting of George Clooney, because I mean I can buy him as Bruce Wayne, but not as Batman. But overall, it's one of the greatest comedies ever made, so it gets a 7 out of 10. Now this kills me to put it at number 7 because it's not even the halfway mark, so it's on the lower end, and that's the brand new The Batman. I wanted this movie to be so good, and I mean to most people it is really good. I hate that I'm just like kind of the odd one out. I found it really boring. Like there's some high spots to enjoy, but like the actual main plot with him against the Riddler I just wasn't really fucking with. And rewatchability is very important to me, and literally the only scene I could see myself rewatching is the Batmobile chase scene. Actually no, maybe the opening with him beating the fuck out of some clowns. That seems pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know, maybe I just don't like drawn out mysteries, which that usually isn't really my genre to begin with, so yeah, it'll also be getting a 7 out of 10. Then we got The Middleman, Batman Begins. Some actually consider this to be the best of the Nolan trilogy. I think it's the worst. Again, I hate throwing this word around, but boring just seems to come to mind when I think of Batman Begins. Because I enjoy like the first half, which is weird because like once he actually becomes Batman, that's when it starts going downhill for me. And again, him against Cillian Murphy, what's his name? Scarecrow. I just didn't care. But yeah, even though I personally don't love it, it is a good origin story movie. I will also be getting a 7 out of 10. Batman 89. I feel like I only like this movie out of like nostalgia. I don't know if it's really that great. Like would I consider it better than Batman Begins? I don't know. I definitely feel like I'd rewatch it before watching Batman Begins. Just really enjoy like the worlds that Tim Burton make. Not all of them, but most of them. And obviously I love Michael Keaton and then Jack Nicholson. Even though he's not the best Joker, he's still Jack Nicholson. Like he's always entertaining for the most part. So yeah, not the greatest, but still very enjoyable, and I'll throw on another 7 out of 10. And then right above it is Tim Burton's slightly better sequel, Batman Returns. I don't know if the budget was all that much bigger, it just seemed like more production went into this one. And then Danny DeVito's Penguin is hilarious. Now that's the question actually, how would I compare Danny DeVito's Penguin to Colin Farrell's Penguin? That's tough because they're so drastically different, because Danny DeVito is not a mobster at all. He's just some fat dude with a flipper. So I don't know. Danny DeVito's pretty fucking sweet, but I'd probably say Colin Farrell's a little better. And then, you know, I've had, what, 3 renditions of Catwoman. I would say this one probably has the best one, personally. But yeah, even though I do consider it better than the 89, I'll give it the same rating of a 7 out of 10. Now, in 3rd place is probably the biggest surprise for Batman movies, and that's Lego Batman. This is one of the funniest comedies of like the past decade. It's so good. It makes fun of every little dumb thing and dumb trope that goes into Batman stories, and just the Batman character, making fun of every movie from the live action movies to animated to the Adam West show, while at the same time just being like an actually good movie. It's like a really good parody, but it's also a good movie where I actually like the characters, and I will give it a 7.5. Definitely recommend. Now this is probably a little controversial to some. Some think that with more rewatches and over time, how long has it been? A decade almost? People have kind of turned on Dark Knight Rises. I still personally really like it. It's clearly carried by Bane. Bane is the standout and is really the only reason to rewatch it. Like when you have a roided out Winnie the Pooh beating the brakes off of Batman, that's fucking sweet. And I feel like Christian Bale was taking liberties in this one because his Batman voice was at like its absolute worst when it came to like not understanding a goddamn word. Aside from like plot holes that you can easily notice when rewatching it, still really fucking fun, and it will get a solid 8 out of 10. And of course number 1 is The Dark Knight. Big shocker, big who would have guessed it. Yeah, it's great. Joker, perfect. Heath Ledger's Joker is the best Joker. Christian Bale, tight. I believe him as Bruce Wayne. I believe him as Batman. Fucking Alfred, hilarious. What'd he say? A ruby the size of a tangerine. I love that scene. Harvey Dent is great. I feel like that half-face burnt CG with practical, that's just always gonna hold up for me. And it's funny because a lot of people talk about the recasting of Rachel, which isn't a big deal to me because I always just kind of skip Batman Begins and just watch The Dark Knight. But yeah, just when I watch it, I just feel like I'm watching something great. It's like every single scene is memorable and iconic, and you're like, oh shit, we're getting into this scene, oh shit, we're getting into this scene. But yeah, it's just perfectly paced. It's gonna be as good as it gets for a Batman movie, and it will get a 9 out of 10. Alright, I'm done.